All right, welcome to another edition of the HCC TV right here. And my name is Peter Blaze, and you already know, and it's good to be the host for today's episode. Now, I find this very, very interesting, and I feel honored to be the host for today because it talks about a very crucial matter that affects, people in marriage, and even the people who are intending to get into marriage and those who don't even have a hope for marriage yet. I find it very interesting. And yes, I also have two amazing people who we have looked up, to as mentors. And if you've had the rare privileges of talking to them one-on-one, you understand why they are the best fit for today's episode. Now, today on the show, we're talking about sex and marriage. But first of all, for every beginning, you need a foundation. So we're going to be talking about, the foundation for these things. We'll have to discuss what is sex first and what is marriage. Now you're asking who are our guests for today. We have no other persons than Dr. and Mrs. Osofowora. How you doing?
Very fine. Thank you for having us.
It feels good to actually, talk to you on this level, aside from, meeting you one-on-one, on different angles. It feels good to be here.
It's good to be here too.
I'm going to start with sex. Okay. I'm going to ask Mommy. I mean, this is something you talk about, yes. It's like a hobby. It's something you wake up, you sleep, you breathe, Yeah. So what is sex for a starter?
Okay, basically, sex is all activities that has to do with the fulfillment of sexual needs, sexual desire, sexual drives between a man and a woman. This time around is supposed to be between a husband and a wife, basically. So sex is the activities, the different processes that is involved between a man and his wife towards the fulfillment of their sexual desires, their sexual needs, their sexual drives, their sexual libido, towards the fulfillment, the accomplishment, and the fulfillment of such needs between the two of them. That's what sex is, basically.
I like the highlights, between the husband and a wife. That brings the foundation for what is marriage. So let's talk about what is marriage.
Well, once again, thank you for having us on this platform. Now, basically, if we're going to say what is marriage, now the marriage, simply put, is a union between two individuals. This a male and a female, as God ordained it, that have come together, fulfilling both the scriptural principles and then the traditional, or when I say traditional this time around, for every culture, they have what is acceptable for marriage to be contracted, which is parental consent, and then if there's what they refer to as engagement, payment of dowry, and all that. That is both individual having their consent, their parent also agreeing to their union. Then once those has been fulfilled, then you can say a marriage has been contracted.
Very, very well said and explained. Deep thoughts for people to actually reflect on. Now, Mommy talked about sex, being one that has to do with a man and a woman, quote unquote, husband and a wife. And you have explained that there are cultural values as to how marriage has to take place, paying of dowries, going through the right process before, any other idea of sex comes into play. I remember many years ago, growing up, it was a taboo. For you as a young girl to come back and say you're pregnant, or you come back, or your parents will see you even by under the staircase with a boy. It was a ritual taboo that you don't commit. But if you look at today, the country that we are in, the nation that we are in currently, you find out that, sex out of wedlock, has become a norm. It's more like you're going to the grocery store to go buy sex. Yeah. That's what it is right now. So what would you say is the cause for all of this? Let me start with you, Mommy.
There are so many factors that came together to bring about what is happening now presently. But I like addressing things from their root.
Okay.
Because when you want to kill a tree, I tell people if you remove the fruits, it's just an exercise in futility. If you want to kill a tree, you go to the roots. One of the things we need to understand about sex, which is now causing issues now, is that our strongest sexual organ is not the genitals. Our strongest sexual organ is the mind. So everybody's approach to sex, their ideologies about sex, their approach to sex, the way they see it, the way they do it, the things they allow about it, is directly connected and related to their mindset and their ideology about sex. So like you said, many years ago, the ideology that is prevalent, that children were brought up with, that the society, projected, is the fact that sex is wrong between two people that are not married. In fact, if you're a single lady, you're not supposed to be found with, the parents even brought them up that don't sit beside a man, don't talk to a man. In fact, it was so extreme then that the average young lady feels that if she should sit beside a man and the man should just touch her like this, she has already gotten pregnant.
Yes.
Can you see mindsets? So it is that mindset that determines how they approached the issue of sex. What is happening now is that civilization, exposure, different ideologies have come in over the years. Now, some of those ideologies were liberating ideologies, trying to remove the extreme that were in the former ideologies. Because those former ideologies, in a bid to establish sexual purity, they also produce sexual prisoners. Do you get it? They also produce sexual prisoners. So, liberating ideologies came, but the truth of the matter is that any ideology whatsoever that is devoid of the truth of God's word becomes corrupted by itself. So it will not be able to produce the kind of results that are God kind of results. So when those liberating ideologies came and it became clear that, there's really nothing wrong in expressing your sexual libido, you shouldn't keep it to yourself. Why are you ashamed of the way you are feeling? There's nothing wrong in moving with a guy. Your sexual feelings is something that is part of you. You can express it. You can be in a relationship with somebody. The two of you can stay together in the same room for long and stuff. It became something that is so prevalent, and then it now mixed with a particular factor which was never resolved even in those days, the factor of sexual control, particularly for guys. Do you get it? So when that liberation, that freedom that is not curtailed, the freedom without boundaries came in, and then mixed up with sexual indiscipline, moral bankruptcy, before we all knew what is happening, having sex with the person you are not married with became a regular and a normal thing. You understand? Because of social media, because of ideologies here and there, peddled all over, it's mixed with the human weaknesses of the human nature, which was even there in the days of our parents. It was also there in the days of our parents. So I hope you know. But the society and the ideologies did not allow you to have expression. But now in our days, because those liberating ideologies came, they were devoid of the nature of God. It's mixed with the human nature that is also sinful. And before you know what is happening, there is just all over the place sexuality. People are doing whatever they like. And then it became an issue that we now have to begin to put boundaries on again. That is what led to all that we are passing through now.
These are thoughts provoking, insights that we're getting on this episode. Now, you talk about mindsets, that's one of the hardest things to actually, how do I put it? One of the hardest things to actually control. How do you reframe your mind from, what you have learned? There's something called you learn, you unlearn, and you relearn. Now, how do we now change the mindset of people that we have now, where sex is, hey, are you around? Okay, I'm coming over. the youth these days, I mean, you go all over social medias, you see the people, quote and unquote, the people that these guys they follow as their, role models.
Yeah.
They have made it a culture where before you show that you're ready for marriage, your quote and unquote girlfriend has to be pregnant.
Yeah.
Show that there's the reward for fruit of labor, like they say. So how do you change that narrative? How do you start? Where do you start? Where's the genesis to reframing that mind thought? Let's start. Let's have you on that.
Well, I think like my wife rightly said, in the beginning, these things were not so. Now, when you ponder on the issue of mindset, it's not as if there's anything new that we're witnessing. It has always been there. Now, the issue is that in the past, there's a lot of inhibition. You don't want to present your family in a bad light. Growing up, they will tell you, remember the son of who you are.
Yes.
You're leaving home another, and then they sit you down and tell you that, do you know all we have to go through to do this? Don't bungle it up. Now, there's that inhibition there that even though you see some things that is not in keeping with the ideals that you are used to, you still refrain yourself somehow that, okay, this is a no area. But with time, so many things come right, left, center, another. We're in age of information. You don't even need to pay to get to know some things. I've seen a youngster that told me that, okay, Google is my elder brother, that anything I want, I can easily Google it and get the information. Now, if you're going to change a mindset, what we have to do is we go back to the beginning. We have to start painting the right picture, setting the right examples, talking to people, seeing people that are actually, apart from talking the talk, they are walking the walk. Now, when we have enough examples to influence people, then that is when you can actually change some things. When the generation of instant gratification, nobody wants to wait for any other thing. And then if you talk about, like the example you cited, when you said these days, okay, you call and then you see, are you home and all that. No boundary. And then the idea of people wanting to get pregnant even before they venture into marriage. If you're going to change that particular idea, one of the things you have to ask yourself is this: what informed this in the first place? The bottom line is fear. From our own training and profession and all that, I've seen people, you see them, they'll come, and then when you are talking to them and all that, they'll say, our parents want us to get pregnant before we tie the knot. Then, if there's time and I interact with some of them and all that, I always pose some question to them. Some of it is just to provoke their thinking. One, sometimes I ask them that, what gives you the idea that even if you get pregnant now, you're going to carry it to term? What if you get pregnant now and you tie the knot and you lose the pregnancy? Will you untie the knot? If after losing the pregnancy and you now fail to get pregnant again, will you now break the marriage?
Right.
Now, many times when we look at easy way out, it's not all the time you get the result you want. Or the other way is that if you get pregnant and you have the first baby and you have issue having the other babies, what happens then? Is it going to proceed to marry another person? Now, when you are coming from that, you have to understand that the foundation you are starting the marriage on is wrong. Because things can happen. Life happens. We don't pray for accident. We don't pray for anything bad and all that. Supposing everything is normal, in the course of the delivery, you become paralyzed. Will he still be able to stay with you? Or if it's the other way, will you still be able to stay with him? So those are all the things that we have to look at that should make us to go back and ask, what is the template for marriage in the first place? When we establish that template, then from that template, we can now look at it that if we're going to correct the mindset, we have to go back to what informed the ideal mindset ab initio and begin to build according to that pattern.
Wow. Now, talking about templates, if I'm to judge by, statistics, facts, things we see all over the gram, newsletters coming up, stories on Facebook. I'm a big lover of those very crazy stories on Facebook. I follow them through. We realize that
Stories that touch the heart.
Well, stories that would make you think and you ask yourself questions that these things, they happen, why are you still bent on keeping this or doing that? You realize that the template of marriage is, to a certain level, it is shaky, right? And this is coming from the point of infidelity. I'm moving to that now. Why do you think we have so many infidelity going on in marriages? What do you think is the root cause? Could it be what you said, Daddy, as having a wrong foundation in marriage, which is not, or Mommy, would it be not having the right base? I remember when I and my wife came over to you the very first time, Mommy asked us to do the impossible, which a lot of people would not do, which is break up and go back. Go back to the very drawing board. Ask yourself very, honest questions. Then if you have those answers, then you come back to me and say, we're ready. So what would you say is the root cause for infidelity? Why would men, let me put my gender, shout out to my gender, you guys are amazing. Why are my gender, or both genders, why do we have that story of infidelity roaming all around?
Let me start by saying that a dog does not bark because the dog is bad. A dog barks because the bark is in the dog.
Honesty.
Infidelity is not a marital issue. It's a human weakness. They didn't become unfaithful or infidel in the marriage. They have always been unfaithful, sexually indisciplined, morally bankrupt. We need to understand that marriage has no nature of itself. Marriage has no character of itself. Marriage simply takes upon itself the character of the two people that are inside it. So, a man who has faithfulness, loyalty, commitment as core values is not going to marry, and whatever happens in that marriage, we make him to do anything different from that. So, for example, you hear things like this from men who find themselves in adultery, or things like, oh, my wife denied me of sex, she didn't give me enough sex, and I couldn't just stand it anymore, so I had to get another person. Or the marriage is very, very unhappy. She now asks me when I come home and I just feel I'm going into a battleground. I'm also sad, so I didn't know how I got myself involved in another lady, blah, blah, blah. Or, we were apart. We were not able to stay together. So while I was there, I just couldn't stand it anymore. We have different excuses, quote and unquote. And I hope you know that also happens with women. And we bring forth those excuses. But this is what I tell people. If a well is clean to the bottom, it will be giving you clean water. And no matter how much you stir it, it will never give you dirty water. Because it is clean to the bottom. But if a well has dirt inside of it, only that it has settled, it will still first be giving you clean water. The moment there is a stirring, the dirt will mix up and give you dirty water. So situations, circumstances, people do not make us to do anything. Those factors only brings to the surface the different vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and strengths that has always been residual inside each and every one of us. So the basic reason why a lot of men commit infidelity and adultery is because as individuals, they were not trained and they did not imbibe the value of faithfulness, commitment, and sexual discipline. Do you get it? So for example, the average guy out there is brought up with this idea. Number one, when a man gotta go, a man gotta go. It's one of the reasons why for those who follow me constantly online, they know that there is hardly a marriage counselor that kicks against the wiring, ideology and principle than me. When you hear things like men are wired like this, women are wired like this, I normally say it, God is not an electrician. He does not wire anybody. The Bible says male and female, he created them and called both of them Adam, humanity. The only difference between a man and a woman are in the uniqueness of our physiology and functions. After that, the two of us are capable of exactly the same thing based on environment, nurture, and ideology and how we were trained. Do you get it? So the challenge of a lot of guys is two things. Number one, guys believe that the way they are wired, their libido is such that when a man is aroused, there's just nothing he can do. He just have to. So you hear things, and we all also, because of so many other ideologies, we keep feeding these weaknesses in men. So for example, one of the ways by which we feed it is that we tell women to dress decently so as not to tempt men, thereby putting the responsibility of the irresponsibility of men on the woman. Do you get it? Endorsing it in the mind of the average man that the naked body is supposed to make me to go crazy. Once I see a naked breast or a naked bum bum, I'm supposed to lose control and then I cannot do anything. I just grab her, then I must sleep with her. Whereas when we teach women to dress decently, it's supposed to be because decency is a core value. Is the mind of God. So she's dressing decently because she needs to dress decently because she's supposed to respect her body and do the will of God. Not because she wants to stop the man from having an erection. But because we teach it like that, again, we are endorsing it in the mind of the average man that he cannot control himself. Do you get it? So when he marries, and then different situations begins to come and he finds himself regularly either with women or in situations whereby he's being tempted. He just has to go for it. And in fact, he excuses himself away because he tells himself, I'm a man. These are the weaknesses of a man. But how you will know a man can control himself and is a man thing is this. I want to put a picture in your mind of a man who is sleeping with a woman. And in fact, he's about to enter her. And then the lady says, oh, I forgot to tell you, I have HIV. Or as he's about to enter her, somebody jumps into the room with AK-47 and begins to shoot. Will the guy say, there's nothing I can do. I cannot control myself. Will he do that? No. So if the fear of death could stop him, and all the wiring and the nature suddenly disappears immediately and he goes limp like vegetable in hot water and he rolls under the bed and begins to protect himself and remember there is Jesus then to save him from AK-47. Why couldn't he do it at other times? Beyond mindset. So what causes this is the fact that before marriage, our young men, and it starts with parenting, when we're talking about how to change the narrative. For example, part of the problem of parents is this. Parents teach daughters that virginity is something to be proud of. But we don't teach our sons that virginity is not the national property and generational property of the girl. Virginity is what both sons and daughters should be proud of. So when we were bringing up our children, we brought up our son and our daughters to know that you are supposed to be sexually pure. It's not a female thing. So our son is not embarrassed about his virginity. He does not hide it. He doesn't feel it's something that he should hide so that men will not think that he's less than a man because he's not sleeping around. So we need to start changing the narrative from upbringing, from training. Do you get it? Also, there is a particular factor that the church generally needs to address. We keep telling our singles that fornication is a sin, which is sex before marriage. But we are not addressing the issue of their sexual libido. It is God who created the sexual drive. The Bible says sexual drives are supposed to be strong. So we look at 25, 27, 30, 32, 35-year-old single guys and ladies. We tell them fornication is a sin. We tell them masturbation is a sin. We tell them sex toys is wrong for them. Who is telling them what to do with their sexual drives, which prayer cannot take away? Because it is God who puts it there. So they can't pray it away. So we also need to now begin to talk to our singles. The Church of God needs to start teaching singles how to accept their drives, how to embrace it, how to celebrate it, and how to live above it controlling them. The moment information begins to change their narrative, begins to change their ideology, we will begin to have more men who before marriage do not believe that their sexual drive should control them. They see it as an insult for their erection to control their destiny. So when people like that marry, do you get it? We begin to have less cases of infidelity because marriage does not cure sexual indiscipline. It only aggravates it. There are men who do not commit adultery, but they are using their sexual indiscipline to choke their wives. I have handled cases of men who demand for sex twice a day, every single day of the week. He is not committing adultery. But is that right? Do you get it? So it's about changing the narrative before they marry at all.
All right. I mean, this is, we're really heading somewhere with this. Mommy has said a lot. I'm going to pick out a point, one of the things she talked about. And I'm going to frame the question this way.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing it to our agenda, we men. You know, I think we have a bunch of the work to do because, like you said, growing up, it was a thing. I think our parents then were too shy to take that responsibility. I remember myself, I didn't have a sex education with my parents till I got married. I think I got it over with my friends. I learned on the job. I did a lot of things that made me realize that, the quote unquote, they were not the right way to do things. Now, I've seen videos where some men would come out many years after and said they were looking for help, looking for how to find a cure to, their cheating lifestyle, being infidel, bringing harm to their family, all in the guise of, I cannot control my sexual urge. Now, from a man's point of view, with years of experience being married to a beautiful mommy, how would you say, or how would you encourage young men to fight that infidelity gap in them? How would you say they can fight it?
What is a deep question, but at the same time, the answer is pretty straightforward. Like while she was talking, she mentioned a number of things, but I want to cone everything down to one. And that's the issue of self-control. Or what they will say in some parlance as self-mastery. Now, every one of us, no matter the age or the exposure or the maturity, or even if we come to the Christendom and say the anointing or the grace upon you, there's still the element of the flesh in you, which is the human nature. The human nature unrefined, unredeemed is actually selfish and self-centered. You want what is yours and you want it now. Even what is not yours, you want it. Now, I always put it this way. No matter the height you have attained in life, anytime it comes to your consciousness that I have the flesh in me, if no other thing, that should make you to be humble. It shows that you have something that can trip you over. So before marriage, like I mentioned something about inhibition the other time, some people that falls into the category you say and all that, it's not as if they were able to get mastery over themselves. But let me bring it this way. When you talk about the issue of inhibition, the environment, what will my parents say? I don't want to disappoint my parents. I don't want to disappoint my family, people that respect me, the society, the church, and other. Makes some of us to keep struggling while growing up. Now, when I say some of us, I'm talking about men. I'm also a man. You keep struggling. There's a battle within you that you have not really overcome. But deep down somewhere, you look at it that, okay, what they are preaching is okay. Sex is for marriage and all that, albeit you keep struggling. So even those that struggle and get to the point and they now tie the knot, it's like you now let the lion loose. When they now realize that, it's not as if I've mastered this. And you said, the church says we can express it in marriage. Now, me, I've struggled and struggled. Now it's time. Now, you now rain the torrent of everything on the woman. You now realize that at that point in time, since there's now freedom of expression, what you do, you keep mastering over time. You now realize, this thing, is this what they're hiding from us or another? But there is no way, because you have lost that reign over the flesh. When you are now expressing yourself, you now realize that, okay, come. Except I want to deceive myself. This person cannot meet all this expectation. Because you have false idea and another. If you are not giving me, I'm going to get it somewhere or another. Why? That inhibition is not there again. And then you now fall on it that, okay, if I do it as a man, they look at it, now in this society, quote and unquote, when a man misbehave, he's a man now. So the same set of people that will castigate you before marriage, when you are now married and you give one excuse or the other, say, maybe the woman or this and another, or even if the person is lying and gave one excuse that is my wife or another, people tend to rally around them. I don't know if you get the picture I'm saying. So from the beginning, it's not as if that person actually master his sexual urge at all. He was still a slave to it. Lost to a lot of imagination, a lot of thoughts and all that he couldn't express, but now find a place of expression. That is one of the things that can happen. And how to overcome that will be encouraging people from the beginning to open up. If while you are struggling and all that, you have an accountability partner or a mentor, somebody that you look up onto, that you can say, sir, I'm going through this. Is it normal for my body when I see the opposite sex to do gish gish? And then the person can sit you down and explain some things to you and other. That feeling that way per se is not a sin. It's not a sin to be tempted. But when you yield to the temptation, you are crossing the line. Now, if you see someone that can educate you and say, okay, this happened to me too. This is what happened. This is what you do, another. It's not wrong for thought to come. But every thought that is not expressed in word or action will die unborn, like Kenneth Hagin said. Now, when you meet people that help you to handle that part of your life, you realize that you are free from that struggling from beginning, even before you enter into marriage. Now, that is in line with what she's saying, that marriage is not a cure for sexual indiscipline. Because what happened is marriage is just like a rain. If that sexual indiscipline is there, when you enter, it will pour.
Sure.
Because whether you like it or not, there's some stage in marriage that you have to keep to yourself.
Very true.
The lady takes in, maybe the first trimester, she's vomiting all through the place if she's one of those that will vomit. Or she's irritable, she doesn't even want to see and all that and everything. But no, me, I want to. What do you want? Is it the speech you want or what? That's another person's daughter, for crying out loud. She's going through a lot of things. She has not passed that journey before. She needs understanding, she needs support.
No sex.
Not the other way around. Now she's going on with baby bump and other. And you say, hey, there are different holes now. Let's do this one. Which hole? Why don't you go and dig a pit in the compound and put it there? Now, what am I trying to say? That there will be situation and circumstance that will call out that self-control, whether you have it or not. And that is on one side. And part of why I said I will cone it down to self-control is we must die to self. Paul says, I die daily. Now, he said, mortify. Mortify means to put to death that nature, that desire in you. If you don't learn to do that, in this age and time, you don't even have to make advances at ladies. They will make advances. I've shared an experience with my wife before, another time. Someone was involved in an accident and then they rushed the person down. The first child was in another hospital. They rushed her and the baby with the second child, and I was attending to the person another. I didn't know the way I carried the baby, attending to the son and all that, I didn't know that touched her heart. But after the baby was fine, she came for follow-up and all that, and said she wanted to see me. I remember sharing what she said with me, said, that I don't know what is coming over me, that I've never done this even as a single and all that. Sir, I'm interested in you.
Oh.
I told my wife said, I think let's see and explore if she can be helped. I realized along the line, interacting with her is more of transfer of affection. Because what she expected the husband to do in that scenario, and the guy was just standing aloof. It was the doctor doing it, both for herself that was involved in the accident and the son. But over time, we were able to talk and all that. She got over it. She said she's sorry. Now the issue is this. It's an opportunity that could be explored negatively.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's just one of many. The same way it will happen to female, it happens to male. You'll see males that want to get a contract. Yeah, because men don't amplify their own and talk about it.
Yeah.
It appears as if it's not happening. And the lady CEO will tell you that, oh boy, this is the contract. But if you can pat my back, I'll also give you the contract. That is where you have to go back to what I mentioned earlier on. Self-control. We grow in it. It's like building a faith muscle. is like learning to say no. When the month of grace, it says, the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us to say no. Saying no is more difficult than saying yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because behind no, there can be a lot of consequence.
Sure.
There will be reward you might lose. There will be friend you will lose. Another. There will be name calling. But it's saying one no after the other that reinforce your will to be able to stay faithful to your wife at every point in time. And saying no is not always to others. Saying no can start from you. You have a desire and you say, no, body, you are not having it now.
Wow, deep thoughts. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. We have more questions to ask. Now, Mommy, let's jump into one of the very important points you made. You talked about the church, people saying they have sexual urges. You say masturbation is a sin, is this and that. But what's the church, doing? Now, my question is masturbation, an option to sexual urge? When you don't want to commit, you don't want to go and meet brother A or sister B. You now say, masturbation is not a sin. Is that an option, for both married, both single? Is that an option? Masturbation.
Okay, yeah. I always advise, even married, to avoid masturbation. And I will tell you why it's something that should be avoided. The first thing we need to understand is that when it comes to sex, sexual fulfillment was designed to only occur within the confines of marriage. And I'm not the one that said that, it's the Bible that said so. What the Bible said in 1 Corinthians 7, if you start reading from verse 2 downwards in Message, it says, sexual drives are strong. But the marriage has provided an environment to give a fulfilling release for our sexual drive. So the Bible makes it clear that when it comes to the expression and the fulfillment of our sexual drives, is expected to be within the confines of marriage. Therefore, any single that is trying to fulfill sexual drive in any other way is still sinning. Do you get it? Because that was is not supposed to fulfill it outside of marriage.
Yes.
Now, what now brought in masturbation for single is this. Like I said, a good single who is a good child of God knows that fornication is a sin. And fornication is sex outside of marriage. So he's single, she's single. So he knows that he's not supposed to have sex outside of marriage. But the issue is this. Body no be wood. That same scripture, if you read it down, says that sexual drives are strong, meaning that single has sexual drives.
True.
I call it the giz factor. The body is moving, you understand? And then to make the matter worse, and that's why one of the ways to teach people or to help people to control their sexual drive is to teach them how not to feed it.
Okay.
Because everything that you feed grows. You understand? So unfortunately, apart from the normal sexual drive that this single should have, so many X-rated contents that social media has made free for everybody. You understand? On TikTok, on Thread, on this, on that, now even makes the sexual drive of the average single to be stronger than usual. Their sexual drives are obesed because they have overeaten. And here is it. Sex before marriage is not allowed. So because he or she doesn't want to sin, then the only alternative is masturbation. That is what makes masturbation to be very rampant and, constant among our singles. But they need to understand this. These are the dangers of masturbation. The first thing is that masturbation makes it easy for you to get hooked upon it. So it actually becomes a habit. One thing about a habit is that a habit is controlling you. You are not the other way around. You think you are the one in charge, but the moment something becomes a habit, it's controlling you. So the moment masturbation becomes a habit, they realize that even when it's not even necessary, they find themselves wanting to do it. Do you get it? And because it is wrong, every time they do it, they feel guilty. They feel bad. That guilty feelings drives them away from the presence of God. It begins to affect their prayer life, their study life. They don't even want to come to church or come to their pastors. That now reduces their spiritual stamina and strength, making them weaker, exerting more control of the masturbation over their lives. The second danger in it is that since it has become a habit for them, even after marriage, quite a number of them will still not feel sexually fulfilled after sleeping with their wives or husband. Because mark you, women masturbate. It's a wrong idea to think it's men.
Just men.
Oh, women masturbate a whole lot as much as men. Yes, do you get it? But once it now becomes a habit and it becomes hooked upon it, even after marriage, and their spouses are not denying them, they will still discover that no matter what they do with their spouse, if they still don't go and do that masturbation, they are not okay. And then one of these days, the poor wife or the poor husband catches his wife doing herself or doing himself and is wondering, what is going on? And that generates a whole, am I not enough for you? What is going on? If they are not careful, they don't know how to handle it. That alone can totally destroy and scatter their marriage. The third danger about masturbation, particularly for guys, is that men don't understand that masturbation is a quick fix. It's a shortcut. So they don't know that if you masturbate regularly as a single guy, because your strongest sexual organ is the mind, you have inadvertently trained your mind that at the exposure to the slightest sexual excitement or stimuli, release. So when he marries, he will not know that he has developed premature ejaculation. You get it? So now that he is married and he needs what we call staying power to be able to make love to his wife long enough, they will just realize that once they start making love, within 1 or 2 minutes of making love, he has not even entered his wife, he has released all over her body. And lady is like, and then they call them 2 minutes men. I don't like that name actually, it's not fair. But that is it. And then remember that when that now begins to happen in the marriage, he will be embarrassed. If the wife is not trained and experienced and mature, she will raise alarm. The alarm will embarrass him more, giving him psychological problem, which is the second cause, major cause for premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction. So the psychological problem, the fear, the embarrassment, we couple with the habit and establish the erectile dysfunction. In fact, it may get to a point whereby, maybe before, he could get it up because he just couldn't sustain it. It can get to a point whereby he will not be able to have any erection at all. Now, we need to get this information across to our singles. You understand? Knowledge is light. Light is illumination. The Bible says when it comes to light, it is in charge of your path. The word of God is a light unto your feet, it's a lamp unto your feet, and a light unto your path. You understand? So it means that light is in charge of your progression. It's in charge of your direction. It's in charge of your movement. So when we get this information across to our singles, to let them understand the intricacies, the nitty-gritty involved in what masturbation is all about, number one, they will refrain from choosing it. So they will now be bold to ask the question, okay, so what do you want us to do? And we must be ready to now provide solution to them. You understand? And one of the solutions we need to provide for our singles when it comes to sexual control, apart from all the things that my husband has talked about, is this. One of the reasons why singles have issues with sexual control is because we did not train singles to accept sexual urge as normal. Let me paint the picture to you. I hope you know that if somebody is sitting down in church, for example, inside church, and the person feels like urinating, will the person stand up, come to the front of the altar, unzip and be wee-wee? No. In fact, many of us, we have the feeling of urination in places whereby we don't like the toilet. And we will refuse to use that toilet until we get to our houses. Why? Because we were trained to accept the feeling of urination as totally normal. We don't feel guilty when we feel like urinating. We are not agitated when we feel like urinating. For us, it's a normal biological function. We have embraced it as a sign of biological and health. So when we feel like urinating, we will not urinate until we get to the environment that we are comfortable and we feel is right to urinate. We need to teach our singles that their sexual drives is normal. You see, a lot of singles have been trained, society, culture, tradition, different stereotypes have trained singles to link sexual feeling to sex. Do you get it? So the moment their libido comes up, what comes to their mind is that the reason why I am feeling like this is because I should have sex. Do you get it? Whereas they need to understand that when their libido comes, the first interpretation they must give to it is that, oh, I am normal. I am medically okay. It simply means my body is sound. In fact, it is if I don't feel it that I should quickly go and report that something is wrong. Mindset, paradigm shifts. Do you get it? Once they understand that, even if their libido comes up and they are feeling giz, they don't feel that I should do. How do I control it? How do I stop it? It is normal. Do you get it? The second thing we need to make our singles to understand is that secrecy is the strength of sin. Truth is the power of righteousness. That's why the Bible says, if you cover your sin, you will not prosper. We should make them to realize that talking about your sex life is not embarrassing. Yes, don't feel embarrassed or ashamed if you have to call your pastor, call a mentor. I have a protege in South Africa or Ghana. You understand? He's a young guy who has been married before. And then divorced. You remember, even in his own case, he has even been now exposed to sex before. So he seems to be in a position whereby he should have sexual feelings. What does he do? Anytime his sexual drives become very, very strong, it's an argument between the two of us. He picks his phone and he calls me. And he says, I'm feeling like sleeping with a woman. And he's very strong. He calls me Auntie Tuski. And he's very strong, Auntie Tuski. I know him. I know the kind of discussion and topics to raise up that the two of us will never agree upon. I just pick one of those topics and we start talking. And for the next 1 hour, we can argue vehemently over that issue. By the time we are done with that argument, he has forgotten that he has a sexual drive. So I just tell him, are you okay now? He said, oh yes, now I'm good, I'm fine. I said, so. And that's it, because it just came. Why? He opened up. So we need to remove this shroud that we have put around sexuality. Do you know that even for the married themselves are having sexual issues? They don't want to talk about it. Because there's this idea that sex is Voldemort, the unmentionable. Nobody must talk about it. If you talk about it, it becomes a big issue. So we need to remove that shroud. Let them feel comfortable with walking up to a leader, walking up to a mentor and saying, I have this issue. What can I do? And then they put them through. And then thirdly, we need to teach our singles how not to feed it. You can't have pornographic flicks on your phone that you are watching regularly. There are pornographic sites on your laptop that you are watching regularly. You are now saying that I cannot control myself. You should not be able to control yourself. Do you get it? Because you are overfeeding it. And when our doctors will tell you a cancerous cell is a normal cell that started multiplying abnormally for different reasons. That's what cancer is. Cancer is just a normal cell that started multiplying abnormally. And they have told us that one of the things that predisposes to it is diet. The same thing. A lot of our single sexual libido is cancerous. It is multiplying abnormally because they are exposing it to the wrong stimuli. So we need to teach them how to avoid wrong information. There are some singles, they need to break away from certain friends because those friends, whenever they are together, the only thing they talk about is a woman's breast.
True.
It is sex.
True.
You must break away from such associations. Reverend will say you give them the gift of goodbye or distance. Certain books certain films that I can watch on Netflix is not for them, because even if I watch it, and the worst is that my body is doing giz-giz, and when my husband comes back, I will go and ask for the giz-giz. But you as the single, you cannot ask anybody for giz-giz. So why are you watching such films? So we need to teach them all those things and then provide a strong, comfortable, and safe mentorship for them. Once all these things are in place and their mindset changes about it, they will not choose masturbation, and they know how dangerous masturbation is. They won't pick it as an option.
I like this concluding part where you talk about having a safe space for them.
Yes.
And some of these people, I'm coming to you, sir. Some of these singles or even married people that feel sex is the unspeakable. Even when it's not going right in their marriage, they feel like I cannot afford to let my secret out in the bag, out open and all of that. Some of them, they feel that way because they feel they might get judged.
Yeah.
Right? So now how do we cut out those ideology of them feeling judged? And even if they feel judged, is it right? That's one question. Number two, in the case of, because someone watching now might probably say, I have a long distance relationship. My husband is somewhere and I'm here. And there are days where we feel some kind of way. Can't we employ the use of masturbation to help each other out even while we're apart? Is that another angle to seeing masturbation as a way of reconnecting with your partner? So 2 questions in one.
Yeah, the first one, let me be sure I got the first one right. The first one is...
What's the first question?
The first question is singles.
Okay.
How would they not feel judged, because they feel like telling, even singles married, how do I go and tell mommy or sure that my marriage is not working, my husband is not giving me sex, or my wife is denying me sex, or the single, I feel some giz way, won't you look at me in a kind of way like, but you're a Christian, you're lifting up holy hands in church, and you're feeling that way. Some of them feel that kind of way, hence you don't see them come to ministers or mentors to be open.
Yeah, let me start by saying that we can start from the pulpit. The picture and the atmosphere we permit. We make it either easy for people to open up or not to open up. Now, and what I'm saying, I mean by that one is that if we have maybe a judgmental atmosphere or your disposition, just saying something, somebody asks you, immediately you want to say some things, you'll be careful another time to open up. Now, so it's one thing to permit that atmosphere, and then is another thing for people to now see that I feel safe with this person. There's a verse I love in the scripture, but you can explain it another way, but I'll just use it to explain what I want to say. That's Micah 7:5. Okay. It said, trust not a friend. I said, do not put confidence in a neighbor. He said, shut the gate of your lips from her that sleeps in your bosom. If you don't understand what the context is talking about, you can decide not to tell anybody anything at all. But if you understand the context, one of the things he's trying to bring out is that you can't trust everybody. And another part of that scripture, the way Jesus put it in the gospel is this. He said, do not cast your pearl before swine. He said they will trample it and turn back and attack you. Now, even though the atmosphere has been ensured and enforced, the people in question you're dealing with, I must be safe with you for me to open my heart to you. And then if I open my heart to you and I see the way you respond, that's what determines how much you will know about me. Even if you are not bringing this one to the church, let's even talk about the home. Now, if I have something going on in my mind and other, and I want to open up and say it, and you've only seen the tip of the iceberg, and then there's a volcanic eruption, you won't see the whole iceberg.
True.
I'll just look at it, okay, this is this. We can study people. We're talking about your life here. It's not everything about you can entrust. That someone is your leader doesn't mean the person can handle every information you want to give. I'm sorry to say that. But when you look around enough, you will see people that you can open up to. Now, having said that, the other part we must be strong on as Christians is that we should allow ourselves to be led. It may not even be your leader, it may not even be the pastor. You might be going through something, and when you turn to God and you are praying about it, God can actually lead you to someone in the congregation. And you might be surprised that what you are going through, that person has passed that through terrain. And while you're saying it, you'll be surprised that the way the person will even receive what you're saying is, you that you felt there's something wrong with you before, just, so I'm okay. Nothing is wrong with me and all that. Because the person will actually demystify what you're going through. So what I want us to note in that one is we must create an atmosphere that people can open up. We must also realize that we are all at different junction in our spiritual development. You yourself, you didn't get to where you are today overnight. I love one thing we emphasize in this commission. We believe in overtime effect of God's word, meaning we are all projects in a progress. That is, God is building us up. We are all growing. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's like, okay, if I come to you, let's put it this way. We're talking about sex because of all the things around it. But debt is as terrible as that. Other form of sin you're talking about, lying can even be destructive more than what you're talking about. I must be able to hold up that, oh, I have this problem. When I first realize I have this problem and I turn to God, then there will be someone that can help me. Now, thank God for the pastoral we have in this place. If you turn to someone and then that particular person cannot help you, you will look for somebody that can help you. I've seen it over and over again. If it's medical something, right in your presence, you will see they will call someone. Say, no, I can pray for you, but I think you need the input of this person. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
So I don't know if I've answered that first part and all that. Then the second question, that's having to do with
long distance relationship.
Long distance relationship.
On the scale of marriage now.
On the scale of marriage. I want to bring something my wife said earlier on in. Say, whether together as single or married together or apart, I'll say, don't touch masturbation with a long pole. You'll be digging a pit that might be difficult for you to fill. She has mentioned a lot of things that people need to be aware of. But one thing I want to add to it is this. She talks about feeding it. If you feed the wrong thing, it will grow to become a monster.
Sure.
And when it becomes a monster, it's likely to consume you. The other thing you should know is this. When you are feeding masturbation, you are inadvertently feeding lust. And you are creating a negative atmosphere around yourself. You will attract someone that has the same problem along the line. Your path can cross with someone that is going through something. And then they talk about law of attraction.
Sure.
The atmosphere you have allowed
Yes.
will attract. And when it attracts, because you have failed to do, that is, to do what you're supposed to do, like in the words of the psalmist, he said, he that does not have control over his spirit is like a city that is broken down without walls. Anything can come in. Because you have failed to build that boundary and to build and nurture that self-control, that temptation you are attracting will come. Your wall is already broken down. You will not be able to stand. So I'll say in the first place, don't even feed it. You don't have to. I think there was a time I was working with one NGO, and we did the documentary. I was asked to do the documentary of the 2 states I was covering. And then we're asked to replicate it in the 6th geopolitical zone. So I had to go to the east. I remember the time we'll be talking on phone and all that. And then I'll play some music and I'll say, how did you put that music there and all that? Huh? All I did then was I put one phone to the other and all that. I don't know all this, your graphics and all that and all. And I played the music for her. There are times I will tell her, this is the way I'm feeling. And she will tell me, this is the way she's feeling. We talk and then we go ahead and forget everything. Life continues. Like she mentioned, don't keep it secret. Open up. You can talk about it. When you are talking about something, what happens is you are taking the weight and the burden off yourself. You are sharing what you're going through. It's like you're having a challenge, you're talking to your pastor or talking to a counselor. As you're sharing it, you discover that the way you came in is not the way you go out. Even if the person has not provided a solution. It's like you're taking a burden off and just giving it to the person. The person might just look down and doesn't have an answer and say, I'll get back to you. But the fact that the person has shared with you goes a long way. I remember the example of someone, he said, married, this person I'm about to mention is actually married. She was staying in Ibadan before. She works far away now. There was a day she was talking, and then she was talking about her husband and all that. And I was trying to encourage her and tell her so many things that men can be this way, we can be this way, and all that. And trying to give a lot of excuses. At the point, he said, you are just giving an excuse for him. You know what I'm talking about and all that. And went on and on. At the point, she told me that, she said, I feel safe with you. And she told me so many things that has happened even in her teenage year. How she got pregnant for her first baby. I didn't even know until that day. And I took 2 of her in the delivery of the 3 kids she has. When she opened up and everything, she looked at me and said, I'm so vulnerable now. I hope my secret is safe with you. So I said, don't forget Hippocratic oath. Without your consent, even your husband, we have to open my brain to know what you have told me. That everything you have told me dies with me. But later on, she mentioned something. She said, I've not told my husband all these things you know. And among the things she told me, there were 2 incidents of rape. The husband doesn't know. The tip, the tiniest one that she told the husband, like 15 years ago, once there's any fracas inside the house, the husband refers to it.
Wow.
So when she picks her call and she says, I told you, it can't change. It's difficult for me to say, you will change. But I still muster strength to say, you will change. Keep praying. Keep doing this one, another. But in my heart, I'll be like, why will you be making reference to something that you say you have forgiven this person and you have forgotten? You understand the scenario? The issue is there's so many things she might want to say. Will she say it again?
No, she can't. She can't.
So, as leaders, as brothers, as sisters, we should know that when someone trusts you with an information, the person should feel safe. That no matter what, except I say it out, that it can't be from this person. So if we allow those two to go on, I'm sure many of the singles, even married, they go through plenty things. You are coming with stress of this, and all that. And then there's no place to even unwind. And you meet another fire
At home.
And you now want to say,
I hope you guys are enjoying this episode today. Remember to always follow, like, share, and let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Now I know with conversation like this, it's very hard to keep it all tied into one episode. So unfortunately, we're going to end this episode right here. But do us well by following the page to find out what happens next in our subsequent episode on the same topic called sex, marriage, between the youths, the single, and even in marriage. Stay tuned.
There are husbands who are married to totally, fully circumcised wives. There are different kinds of circumcision. But we have complete circumcision whereby the whole genitalia has been scraped off. There's no clitoris, there's no labia majora, minora. What has left is the whole. When a woman is circumcised like that, everything that's supposed to make her to enjoy sex has been removed. Such a circumcision is exactly as if you castrated a man. She cannot feel anything. There's nothing that man does to her, she will not have any feeling. So such a wife, for example, do you get it? Every time her husband makes love to her, she is in excruciating pain because she is not having pleasure. So she will be dry. If she is dry and the man tries to enter, he will lacerate her every time. Do you get it? A woman like that, the only way to give her sexual pleasure is to approach or access the G-spot.